Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board public hearing for Wednesday, September 11th, 2019. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The first thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have received a few blue cards. If anybody else is here to speak on anything on the consent agenda, you need to fill one of these out. There's a little bit more time if we're missing anybody. But we'll go ahead and have Board Member Boyle read the consent agenda, please.
Okay, items on the consent agenda. Item number 2, approval of minutes from previous meetings with suggested revisions discussed in today's study session. That's item 2A, PZ 19099, minutes from the August 28th study session, again with the suggested revisions discussed in study session today. Item 3C, PZ 19102, it's ZON 19-00444, District 5, within the 7100 through 7200 blocks of East University Drive and within the 100 through 400 blocks of North Sun Valley Boulevard, located west of Sossaman Road on the south side of University Drive. Modifications of an approved pad and associated conditions of approval and site plan modification. This request will allow amendment to remove a condition of approval limiting the square footage allowed for medical offices. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 4A, PZ 19104, Baywood Square, District 5, within the 7100 through 7200 blocks of East University Drive and within the 100 through 400 blocks of North Sun Valley Boulevard, located west of Sossaman Road on the south side of University Drive. Preliminary plat. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. And then item 4B, PZ 19103, East Mark DU-7, parcel 53, District 6, within the 9800 through 9900 blocks of East Point 22 Boulevard, south side, and within the 4700 blocks of Southeast Mark Parkway, west side, located north of Ray Road and east of Ellsworth Road. Preliminary plat. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read in for the record on September 11th, 2019.
Okay, is there a
I'll second that motion.
Okay, everybody please vote. Okay, the consent agenda passes unanimously with Board Member Sarkisian absent. So we'll go ahead and open up the regular agenda items now. Case 3A, it's ZON 19-00365 in District 6 within the 9600 through 9700 blocks of East Hampton Avenue, located south of Southern Avenue on the west side of Crisman Road on roughly 3.8 acres. This is a request to rezone from RS43 to RM2 PAD and a site plan review to allow for the development of a multiple residence project. Cassidy Welsh is our staff planner. Go ahead and make a presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is case ZON 19-00365. This is located north of Hampton Avenue and west of Crisman Road. The request is a rezone from RS43 to RM2 PAD and site plan review to allow for a multiple residence development. Here you can see the proposed site plan. The proposed development features 53 units that are detached rental casita type development with a centralized amenity area. The proposed site is located within the neighborhood suburban district of the general plan, is in conformance with the general plan, as well as is compatible with the surrounding developments. The request does include a PAD request for deviations from development standards. Those deviations include modifications to requested building and landscape setbacks, building separation requirements, and private and common space dimensions. The applicant did complete a citizen participation process. A neighborhood meeting was held. Though no neighbors were in attendance, staff has not received any contact from the surrounding property owners in regards to this development, and staff is recommending approval with conditions. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Cassidy? Okay. Would the applicant like to give a presentation?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Brennan Ray, 702 East Osborne, here on behalf of the applicant. I certainly have a wonderful PowerPoint presentation that I can plug in and run through if it would be this board's preference. My sense is that it's not, but again, I'm happy to do that. I just want to emphasize a couple of things that Cassidy talked about and is provided in the staff report. The area designates this, the general plan designates this area as neighborhoods. And while I can appreciate that there may have been changes in the area that this board and the city council have approved in the past, the request before you today is 100% consistent with the general plan and that neighborhood designation. This is a residential development, and it is consistent with it. We have worked closely with staff, hand in glove with them and with the other departments at the city to ensure that it is the quality development. And while I can appreciate that sometimes quality is subjective, at least in working with staff, they feel, and we would agree, that we've met that objective. I know there was some discussion in the study session about an additional stipulation. We have had a chance to review that language, and that stipulation is acceptable to us. And so with that, again, if I need to get into a full-blown presentation, I'm more than happy to. Other than that, I would request this body's recommendation for approval in accordance with staff's recommendation.
Does anyone prefer the applicant to go through the presentation? We're all good, so thank you for offering, though. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Me, thank you. Be on standby, just in case any questions for staff. And did you want the revised stipulation read into the record so we're all clear about what it says?
Chair, members of the board, the condition, which is condition number 5, will read, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the amenity package commensurate with what is shown on the site plan must be reviewed and approved by the planning director. The amenities shall include, at a minimum, a swimming pool and either a sport court or alternative active recreational use of the area shown as an amenity area on the site plan.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I just ask, is that condition 5 or 6?
That's condition number 6.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone who's ready to make a motion on this? Or would you like to discuss it some more? It looks like, do you have any questions or comments, Board Member Crockett, or ready to make a motion? You're not ready to make a motion? Somebody, someone, anyone?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, go for it, sir.
I motion, based on our conversation here and hearing that staff recommendation, I motion that we approve case ZON 19-00365 in District 6, located in Southern Avenue on the west side of Crisman Road, approximately 3.8 acres for rezone from RS3 to RM2-PAD, and a site plan review. This request will allow for a multiple residence development, and that approval with conditions from staff, and as well as the revised conditions of approval that we received today and the revision to stipulation number 6 that we just heard.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, everyone please vote. Okay, so the motion does pass with 4 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 board member absent. Thank you. That was quick. That was a quick item. Okay, so let's move on to item 3B. This is case ZON 19-00440 in District 2, 1728 South Greenfield Road, located south of the US 60 Superstition Freeway and west of Greenfield Road on 7.2 acres. The request is to rezone from light industrial with a council use permit to limited commercial with a council use permit for a pawn shop, a site plan review to allow for a pawn shop within an existing group commercial center. I believe, Mr. Ellsworth, are you going to present again on behalf of Lisa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, this is case ZON 19-00440. It's located at the northeast corner of Baseline and Greenfield Roads. This request is for a 7.2 acre site that's part of a greater 45 acre site that's a a major retail development at one of our major arterial intersections, just south of the Superstition Freeway. This request is to rezone the site from LI with a council use permit to allow the amount of retail that they have to LC for limited commercial uses. The request is being made and for the ability to request a council use permit for a pawn shop to be located in 3,900 square feet of one of the retail suites at a portion of the center. As we look at the site plan itself, this outlines where that suite is located. As you consider the rezoning of the site, it's for limited commercial. The uses on the site plan itself, all conform to the standards of development for an LC district. The uses are all allowed there. And then what the rezoning request does is allow you to consider the council use permit for the pawn shop itself. As we look at the general plan shows this as a mixed-use activity center. Those mixed-use activity centers envision this type of development for retail centers. It's also within the economic activity area for the Superstition Freeway corridor itself. The request for rezoning, in Chapter 31 of the zoning code, it outlines the criteria for review of a pawn shop. It requires that it can't be within 1,200 feet of a school or another pawn shop. They also need to submit to us in narrative form how this is consistent with the general plan, a plan of operation, and a good neighbor policy that outlines their operational policies for doing business within the center itself. Chapter 70 of the zoning code outlines the criteria for review of a council use permit. So all of those previous things lead towards that review of that council use permit. As you review the criteria for a council use permit, there are 4 tests that you would go through for that. I wanted to read through those real quick. The first is that the approval is consistent with the policies of the general plan. The second is that the location, size, design, and operating characteristics of the proposed project are consistent with the purposes of the district where it is located. Third is that the proposed project will not be injurious or detrimental to the adjacent surrounding properties in the area of the proposed project or improvements in the neighborhood or to the general welfare of the city. And fourth is that adequate public services and public facilities and public infrastructure are available to serve the proposed project. Staff reviewed this. We did not find any evidence to propose otherwise, so we are recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Ellsworth? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation? Okay.
My name's Neil Feeser from RK Architects.
Pull it down a little bit closer to you.
I didn't want to make it squeak. Madam Chair and board members, we're looking to rezone this property, which is really just correcting the zoning that should have been in place from the very beginning. And the second portion of it would be to get a use permit for the pawn shop. The pawn shop is a retail use, which matches the existing uses in the center. We think it also has synergy with a lot of the existing retail shops that are in place. Even some of the ones that have written letters in opposition, I think they work well together. They take place when the other one lets the customers down. I think the pawn shop fills that need in. And this pawn shop is a family-oriented business. And in fact, there was a payday loan in this particular building tenant previously. And a pawn shop is a much better use than a payday loan because they provide different options for the community out there and fill that need that is being currently absent. Pawn shops are not allowed within 1,200 feet of each other. It's our research that the closest one is about 7 miles away, so we're much further than 1,200 feet. I don't know if you got to look at the photos, but the facility that is currently being operated by this tenant is a high-quality retail facility. It's well organized and clean. They have high standards, not only for their operations internally, but the patrons that they have come in as well. Pawn shops have negative stereotypes that are basically untrue, and exaggerated by Hollywood. And we have the landlord here as well as the tenant themselves, which he can talk about as specific operations if you'd like. Anything else?
Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Cox. I own Perfect Pawn and Jewelry, and I was downstairs when y'all, were having your conversation about it. And to be quite honest, I'm disappointed about it, but at the same time, I'm not surprised because it's the same kind of stuff I hear all the time. Pawn shops are going to bring in the riffraff. They're going to lower my, the value of the area and so on and so forth. And there's nobody in the building more sensitive to that than me, and I don't mean to come off aggressive, but I'm a Marine, so y'all forgive me. Navy Federal, I joined them in 1993. I'm going to rethink that now that they've sent their letter in without even talking to me first. The issues that I have with the pawn business is, Hollywood has given all of y'all a mental picture of what we are and what we do. And it couldn't be any further from the truth. And the issues that I have with the arguments is they're based on emotion and they're based on assumption. The assumption, we're going to bring in all the bad people and do all the bad things. The emotion is, Sportsman's Warehouse is going to pick up and move off if we let this guy in. That's nonsense. But it's doing exactly what it's intended to do, which is scare you into thinking that that's what's going to happen. Now, I've offered when we had our first meeting at the location, anybody that came in, I gave them my little spiel, and then I offered them, hey, don't tell me you're coming, just come down to my facility, have a look around. And then you can call me or tell them, hey, I'm here, I'll show you the back, and I'll give you a rundown of how we actually do business. One thing that we do every night is we have to supply a police report. It's an electronic one that we upload every single night. And it tells law enforcement across the country, hey, this is what Michael took today. Here's the serial number and the description of it. If something pops up in Texas stolen and hey, Michael has it, they call us up and they say, hey, we're coming to get that. Okay, no problem. We have less than 5 per year. We run thousands of tickets. We have less than 5 per year that pop up on us that we have to forfeit. Taking stolen merchandise has been drilled into everybody's head from the movies. The real issue is if I take something from you and I know it's stolen, 1, I'm going to jail, but 2, when the cops come to collect it, they take the merchandise and the person that we gave the money to takes the money. We're out. It's bad business for us to take stolen merchandise. It's bad business for us to allow riffraff to come and go. Our main goal, and I know you got a few pictures that popped up, is we really try to gear ourselves towards soccer mom, to be quite honest with you. That's always been my goal, is I want everybody to feel like it's just another store. Navy Fed wants to say whatever it is they want. Truth of the matter is a single mom comes in there because she needs a loan because one of her kids got sick or the car broke. Navy Fed's not going to give her any money on her diamond bracelet, but I will. And yes, it's high interest. And we tell them, don't take a dime more than you need because it costs them, it's high. Take what you need, nothing else. If you don't have it at the end of your 90-day contract, you just call us up or you come in, hey, I don't have it all. Just pay us the interest, we'll roll it for another 90 days. Let's say you don't have it then. I'll bend over backwards to work with you because I don't want your stuff. I want that ongoing relationship. That's where we make our money, not by ripping people off and stealing stuff from them. So any questions for me, I'd be glad to hear them, but I'd hate for y'all to turn this thing down just because of misinformation or emotions of somehow you're going to run my property values down. And as a matter of fact, I don't remember who, but somebody said the quality of the area. Perhaps having me there will raise up all your other pawn shop quality because they have to compete with me. Right now, we don't have competition where we're at. The reason I want to move into Mesa is because it's more densely populated and it's a good business decision for me. I've been in the same spot 10 years. It's not lighthearted just to pick up and move. But to me, financially, on paper, it makes more sense for us to move into that area. So that's all I got. Any questions for me?
Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I do have one question. The gentleman that spoke before you said that this is a family-oriented pawn shop. I just wondered, what differentiates a family-oriented pawn shop from any other pawn shop in your opinion?
It's my money and I care. You know, it's, if you go into a super pawn or something like that, you know, the kids at the counter are dealing with public money. They're dealing with, you know, it's corporate, it's a publicly traded. With me, we're more involved, you know, whereas if you fall default with them, they're quick to just take it, you know, and let's say that they loan you $100 on your TV, but they know they can sell it for $200 or $300. It's the day you're late, on the 91st day, they own it. They can legally sell it if they want to. I don't want to do that. I want to call you and bend over backwards, and I'm not doing that out of the kindness of my heart. You know, I'm going to charge you a late fee, but I want you to keep your TV. You know, so when it's family-oriented or family business, it's, I think you have a little bit more of a kind of a home down feel to it versus just a real cold sterile. It's more friendly. It's more, you know, my manager has been with us for 10 years and she pretty much knows everybody that walks in that door and she'll remember them years later. They don't come in for a few years, you know, and typically, you know, our pawn customers, they can be any gamut of life. You know, we get young kids, 18, you know, young kids, that, you know, are just looking to sell their Xbox because the new one's coming out or something like that. And then we have business owners bring me their Rolexes or their diamond rings, a couple carats, you know, because they need to make payroll or they're trying to buy a house, but Navy Fed doesn't want to see it on the book. So, you know, they're doing it through me, you know. So to me, that's the difference between a sterile, you know, big conglomerate versus us.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant right now? No? Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks a lot. Okay, we do have a few blue cards, so we'll go ahead and invite those folks up. The first card is Christine Ramos with the Navy Federal Credit Union. If you could just state your name and address for the record, and we'll give you 3 minutes, and you'll have a timer there, and you'll see when that clock is getting close to 3.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Christine Ramos. I am the branch manager of the Navy Federal Credit Union at 4212 East Juanita Avenue in Mesa, Arizona, 85206. We just did want to point out a few things. Navy Federal does serve our military members in the community and their family members. We do have 24,000 plus members that frequent our Mesa location specifically. I know in the previous planning and zoning meeting downstairs, we did hear some comments that Sportsman's Warehouse had some concerns and that was the only one in Mesa. Well, Navy Federal is also the only one in Mesa. So that would mean that those military families and those military members would not have a way to get their financial needs met for a standard finance company. As the previous speaker did mention, you know, he may give out loans, but those are at predatory lending rates, where Navy Federal does cap their loans at a reasonable rate where our members will not get taken advantage of for those lending guidelines. We do serve those 24,000 military members, and they would have to travel to other nearby cities to get those financial services met if they were to leave the area because of this possibility. Navy Federal does want to maintain a high-quality environment for our community and our members. When we did sign our branch up for this location in April of 2008, we did it under the mindset that this was zoned the way it was. And if that zoning does change and allow for different types of businesses and different types of clientele to come into that area, that is not something that Navy Federal would have signed up to be a part of in that moment. So if this were to change, this is a possibility for us to maybe move our location as well. It was also noted in the planning and zoning session that there is already an abundance, I believe Ms. Allen noted, that there's already an abundance of pawn shops and check cashing and title loan locations in the Mesa communities. And although there might not be a pawn shop in that community, there is a check cashing location which has a similar type of feel for lending guidelines that is located in the next shopping center over. So those are available in the area if the members or customers do need those needs to be met. But Navy Federal does have guidelines that we do stick to, and we do try to take care of our military and our veteran members and their families under our standard guidelines. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Ramos?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to figure out, so there currently is a check cashing facility where they're planning to
Not in
come
that,
Or there
not
was
in
at
that
one
same
point?
exact shopping center. It is in the shopping center just south, across Juanita by the Dos Gringos in the Greenfield and Juanita
Okay,
Shopping
okay.
Center.
I thought there was a comment that there had been one there at one point.
My apologies, sir. No, it's in the shopping center that's just south.
But did I hear from someone that there was one there at one
There
point?
was, yeah, there was one there.
So there has been a check cashing place
At one point, yeah,
in this location sometime in the past?
right.
Okay. And was it there when you guys came in?
No, sir.
Check cashing? Okay, so it's happened sometime since then. Okay, thank you.
I think, I thought I read in the history. No, I don't. Yeah, I think I saw it somewhere too, but I can't find it now.
I'll keep looking, you keep running.
Okay. I just had a question.
Yes,
So, so logistically speaking, it seems it would be a big move to shut down and move somewhere else. And I'm not questioning your sincerity
Sure.
and your concern about it, but
Yes, ma'am.
it concerns me that a business such as yourself would consider leaving Mesa. I guess I don't know what my question is. It's more of a comment.
Sure.
It would be a big endeavor to do that, but you're considering doing that because.
Navy
of
Federal
this.
has moved locations due to other zoning requirements in different cities within our company. So it's not unheard of for us to be able to do that. We also are expanding within the Phoenix market. We are opening a branch out in Goodyear, and we are opening a branch out in North Phoenix. So we are actively looking for additional properties, so it is not impossible for us to simply shift our business to a different location in that sense. There are also, in that general vicinity, I mean, if anybody's familiar with that area, I believe, Mr. Crockett, you mentioned that you do frequent that shopping center. I mean, there is, a Suboxone clinic right down the street. There is lots of other check cashing places, things of that nature that have seemed to be popping up in that facility, in those facilities in that area recently where, we don't want to attract anything additional to that area that doesn't meet our high standards.
Okay. Thank you. So no further questions. Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it. We have another card from Michael Cox. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so there's no more blue cards, so now we can discuss amongst ourselves or talk to staff. Who would like to start the conversation?
I can start because I probably said the most downstairs, but I stick to my feelings that I had downstairs. I feel like this site met the minimum requirements of a rezoning. And I think that still, it's part of it, the city council use permit part is discretionary. And I believe that the quantity of pawn shops in the Mesa area is extreme. I think that it's okay for Mesa to have their fair share, but not in abundance of their fair share. And I believe that this pawn shop would be detrimental to the surrounding properties and surrounding businesses, and to the city as a whole, because it would add to the number of pawn shops and the like of quality businesses that we're talking about attracting. So that's my position on it. But
Thank you. Any other comments?
So I'll just reiterate what I said downstairs. It's about how do we attract the kind of economic development that we want for our city as a whole? And so this is discretionary. We don't have to approve a rezoning. It's within our purview to take a look at, again, holistically, what do we want for Mesa? And it goes beyond being just a good neighbor. I appreciate the fact that you want to be a good neighbor. But not everyone will be able to hear the spiel, visit the site, because at a visual, it will leave people with a perception. And if we're trying to attract additional economic development, and economic development of a high quality and something that will generate and be sustainable for our community, people unfortunately will see that perception and make their business decisions based off of that. Good business decisions are made all the time. People won't have the opportunity to go and see the operations and read the good neighbor policies. We need to attract to Mesa a high standard, and I'm afraid that this will give a negative perception. So I'm not inclined to agree with this.
Any other comments?
Let me throw out what I'm looking at, and maybe I have a slightly different perspective. I enjoy going to pawn shops. I go to the ones in Scottsdale because you can get fantastic artwork there, and I'm a collector of art. I've made friends with many pawn shop owners in the Scottsdale area where I go. Mesa does have a lot of pawn shops, but they almost all stop at about Gilbert Road. I'm pulling up the map here, like there aren't any here. And so one of the things that I'm always focused on the board is balance. And would a pawn shop here help balance off so there aren't as many congregated in the West Mesa area where I think some of the larger, when you have a pawn shop in an area, again, there's some in downtown Scottsdale that I think they're a fantastic part of the fabric of that neighborhood and everything there. When you have as many as you end up in West Mesa, I think then it starts having a negative effect. So as I'm considering this, I'm thinking, okay, does one here help alleviate the number of pawn shops that are all crowded in kind of where we are right now in the 85201 area? Hope that everyone can give that some thought.
Thank you. Any other comments? I could throw my 2 cents in unless, go ahead, Board Member Crockett.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the comments on perception. The perception may not be reality. It may not be fair, but it is a perception, and I think it has the potential to have a negative effect on businesses that are already in this shopping center. And like I said downstairs, we worked so hard to bring businesses in and to maintain those businesses. And here we have a couple that have expressed serious concerns, maybe 3. I think Mr. Ellsworth mentioned the third one. I didn't see a letter on it. Kachina Glass, maybe?
It's in the staff report.
Oh, is it in the staff report?
It's in the citizen participation report. It's mentioned Kachina Glass was at the neighborhood meeting.
Okay. And that really troubles me. It makes it hard for me to support this.
I have a procedural question for staff. It looks like the applicant or part of the team would like to come up and maybe say a few more words. I didn't think I officially closed any opportunity for the public to speak. Does that sound good?
So my understanding is speaking to our 10 years to the board and to decide if there are additional questions or information to us.
Nobody wants to.
I'd be happy to hear.
Yeah,
I'm happy to hear. I mean, I'd like to get.
I don't know why we closed them out of it.
yeah. If you'd like to go ahead and do you have some questions for us, or did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, just the final rebuttal, I think.
Okay. I should have actually let you do that after the
That's what I
opposition. I apologize for that. So please, yeah, go ahead.
Hi, members of the board. Thanks for hearing this. I appreciate all your opinions. I'm the shopping center owner.
Name and address.
Oh,
Yeah, state
Chris
your name and
Hinkson, 5050 North 40th Street, Phoenix, Arizona. I am the shopping center owner and bought the shopping center about a year ago. Actually was the developer of the shopping center and sold the piece to Navy Federal Credit Union and also Sportsman's Warehouse, which are 2 very important tenants to us. Even though we don't own those properties, of course, they're a good, important tenant to the shopping center. So and I have the most to lose if it's detrimental to the shopping center. We just moved EOS Fitness in there, just did some major improvements. So the last thing I want to do is move in a tenant that I think would be harmful to the shopping center. I agree with you. I think there is a point where you have too many pawn shops, but there's also an area where it is beneficial to the neighborhood. And I think it'd be beneficial to the shopping center and the tenants around us. The space has been vacant since the shopping center was built. And we did have a payday loan tenant in when we sold the parcel to Navy Federal Credit Union. So do you have any questions for me?
So the payday loan was there, but they were moving out when Navy Federal came in. Is that sort of?
No, the payday loan tenant was there. We sold the parcel to, they both coexisted for a period of time, and then unfortunately the payday loan tenant ended up closing.
Okay, so they were both there at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you, well, in your business, you've seen all kinds of different types of pawn shops. I mean, there's corporate ones, there's family-owned ones, and I would think you would seriously consider any tenant that comes in to the property. I mean, it just seems like that would be part of your due diligence, kind of the opposite due diligence. So just again, a comment, not a question necessarily, but does anyone have any other questions
Well,
for the gentleman?
maybe just a little bit more, since it is your thing. Are you worried that Sportsman or Federal would make good on their claims that they would leave? Or is this typically something that happens when something new comes in, people kind of jostle and kind of threaten or whatever, but the movement costs and everything don't usually make sense for that?
Well, Sportsman's a 50,000 square foot facility that has been there since 2008 as well. I can't imagine them leaving because a pawn shop came in to the space, and I can't imagine that the pawn shop causing any kind of problems that would require them to leave. And I would kick the pawn shop out before there was anything that happened like that. And the city of Mesa obviously does a good job regulating all the businesses and crime throughout the shopping centers and neighborhoods and so forth. So no, and Navy Federal Credit Union, they own their building. They've been there. They're established. I can't imagine them leaving at all. Of course, I have no idea what they would actually do, but it's important to us that they stay there. So if I thought a 4,000 square foot tenant would eliminate a 50,000 square foot tenant that has synergy with the shopping center, or a 4,000 square foot bank, certainly wouldn't do it. I understand their concern, and I understand the stigma that a pawn shop may have. So the unknown is sometimes better to just keep it the way that it is. But I do feel it would be beneficial to the shopping center, and having the synergy there, filling up the space, and having the benefits of having a pawn shop, as Tim or Mr. Boyle had mentioned about that, which I agree with him.
Thank you. Board Member Crockett?
And just to be clear, you're not the landlord for Sportsman's Warehouse, is that right?
No, they own their own parcel there as well. But I am the landlord of a couple of the shopping centers within the city of Mesa. We pride ourselves in running a first-class shopping center. I own Fiesta Commons down at Alma School and Southern, and redeveloped that and redeveloped this. The shopping center, when we bought it, it was on the verge of a lot of locations closing. A lot of the Terry's was going out, the Lena's was moving out, AT&T was moving out, Sally's Beauty was moving out. The sports bar was moving out because it wasn't managed properly. And we came in and redeveloped it, cleaned it up, signed up all those tenants, and then moved in Sportsman's Warehouse to the property there. And now, if you've been there, you can see it's a totally different shopping center than what it was a year ago.
Jeff, do you feel like, has it changed? Has it upgraded? And since it's your shopping center?
Yeah, well, it's not, I mean, I go to the Sportsman's Warehouse there a fair bit, and I like it, and I guess from a self-interest standpoint, I'd hate to see Sportsman's Warehouse leave, but we try hard to help all of our businesses, the ones that are new moving in and the ones that are here and have concerns about things. And so when I kind of look at a 50,000 square foot tenant worrying about a 3,900 square foot tenant in Navy Federal, I mean, it's troubling to me. And there are a lot of things in life that aren't completely fair, and I think maybe a stigma around a pawn shop is maybe, things have changed. well, I think to some extent, with regard to people using pawn shops, I think it's become more mainstream, as Mr. Boyle is evidenced today. But I still think there is a perception there, and I worry about how that perception will affect the other businesses that are there. And it makes it, again, it just makes it hard for me to support this application.
Well, thanks for
Can I
sharing
ask
your
a question? I'm curious the last time a pawn shop was approved by this board and why they would approve that location and not approve this location.
I haven't seen one.
Yeah, I have not approved.
But you have a lot of pawn shops, as Ms. Ellen has mentioned.
I
You
think
do have a lot of
they're a
pawn shops.
legacy, though, they've been there a long time, and we're trying going forward to be a little more, well, again, I don't think on my term in the last year, I don't think we've had one that's come before us. But, you know, I think that there can be appropriate places for those, for pawn shops in the area, but I just am concerned that this is not the right place.
Well, the interesting thing is that it's the council use permit process. So we, look at these on a case-by-case basis. So it's not, we're targeting, we don't necessarily want pawn shops, but we have the ability to look and see what the fit is.
Yeah, and I understand that, but at the same token, you have criteria on your zoning requirements, and if there's a location, there is not a school near here, even close to it. There's not another pawn shop close to it, so I don't understand. It almost appears that there's no formula that you would be able to approve a pawn shop, because this certainly would meet that standard, obviously, except for the concern with the Sportsman's and Navy Federal, but.
Well, our staff has recommended approval because they believe that
Yeah.
it meets the criteria of the condition, or the council use permit, the zoning ordinance is compatible with the general plan. So, we haven't made a vote yet or anything. I think we're probably ready to do
Oh, we're
that.
closed to a public hearing?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and maybe just one more minute.
One more thing.
Thank you.
Just one more thing. I think it's important. When we moved into our current location that we've been at, there was a U.S. Bank in that parking lot. And then just recently, that facility has sold a year or two ago. Now we have a Starbucks, a Breaks Plus, as well as an LA Fitness. And I had to give LA Fitness the dog and pony show before their corporate people. They flew out their execs to meet with me, and they had to do the whole rigmarole. If that makes anybody feel any better, we've already had large companies, Starbucks and LA Fitness, come in and, for lack of a better way of putting it, stamp of approval of, okay, we don't mind so much being next to this guy. So,
No,
whatever
thank
it's
you.
worth.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and close the public section of the hearing, we'll call it. Okay, so,
Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just a point of clarification. The applicant has said that there is a specific criteria for rezoning and a council use permit. There is a specific criteria for a council use permit. For the rezoning, there is not an absolute criteria in the zoning ordinance. Whenever we have a zoning request, yes, we do look to make sure that it generally conforms to the general plan, but in comparison to the council use permit, which has a very laid out criteria, the rezoning is more legislative, and you are the recommending body, so there are other factors you can consider to make that recommendation to council.
okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, it sounds like there might be someone ready to make a motion. Right. Awesome.
Ready?
Go ahead and, yeah, sure.
I would recommend that this board deny the request for ZON 19-00440, District 2, 1728 South Greenfield Road, located south of the US 60 Superstition Freeway and west of Greenfield Road, rezoned from light industrial LI with a council use permit to limited commercial with a council use permit for a pawn shop and site plan review. My recommendation is that we deny this request.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Allen. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Everybody please vote.
So yes would be to deny it, right?
Right, a yes means
That
you're
was your motion.
denying.
Right, got it.
Yeah, you have to flip.
Wow, the suspense is even killing me. I'm gonna have to. There we go. Okay, so we have 3 nays, 3 ayes, and an absent.
Tied.
We have,
Madam Chair, members of the board, so that's a procedural denial because you need a supermajority, so that will move to, you didn't have majority vote, sorry. So that will move to council as a denial, recommendation for denial.
okay. Well, and when do you anticipate this will go to the city council?
Becky, if you don't mind, when is
No, not at all. Introduction is on October 7th, and action will be on October 21st.
Okay, so there'll be another opportunity for you to go before city council and see if you can persuade them to approve this or not. But thank you very much. I think we're done with that. That is the deal there. Is there any other business, Mr. Apia, that we need to talk about?
No, Madam Chair, members of the board, I have no other information.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second?
Okay, everybody, please vote. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.